story of Oedipus. Oedipus was the son of Laius and Jocasta, king and queen of Thebes. After having been married some time without children, Laius consulted the oracle of Apollo. The oracle prophesied that any son born to Laius would kill him. In an attempt to prevent this prophecy's fulfillment, when Jocasta gave birth to a son, Laius had his ankles pierced and tethered together so he could not crawl. Jocasta then gave the boy to a servant to abandon or expose on the nearby mountain. However, rather than leave the child there to die, as Laius intended, the sympathetic servant passed the baby on to a shepherd from Corinth, and then passed him on to another shepherd. Infant Oedipus eventually came to the house of Polybus, king of Corinth, and his queen Merope, who adopted him, as they were without children of their own. After many years of being son of the king and queen of Corinth, Oedipus was told by a drunk that he was a bastard, meaning at the time that he was not of the same blood of his parents. Oedipus confronted his parents with the news, and they denied every word. Oedipus sent word to the same oracle that his birth parents consulted, and the oracle informed him that he was destined to murder his father and marry his mother. In this attempt to avoid such a fate predicted by the oracle, he mistakenly decided to not return home to Corinth. Oedipus decided to travel all the way to Thebes, as it was near Delphi. As Oedipus traveled, he came to Dalvilia, where 3 roads crossed each other, where he encountered a chariot driven by his birth father, King Laius, and they fought over who had the right to go first, and Oedipus killed Laius in self-defense when he tried to run him over, unwittingly fulfilling the first part of the prophecy. Continuing his journey to Thebes, Oedipus encountered a sphinx, who would stop all travelers to Thebes and ask them a riddle. If the travelers were unable to answer her correctly, they would be killed and eaten, and if they were successful, they would be free to continue on their journey. The riddle was, what walks on 4 feet in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 3 at night? Oedipus answered, man. As an infant, he crawls on all 4s. As an adult, he walks on 2 legs, and in old age, he uses a walking stick. Oedipus was the first to answer the riddle correctly, and, having heard Oedipus's answer, the Sphinx was astounded and inexplicably killed herself by throwing herself into the sea, freeing Thebes from her harsh rule. Creon had said that any man who could rid the city of the Sphinx would be made king of Thebes and given the recently widowed Queen Jocasta's hand in marriage. This marriage of Oedipus to Jocasta fulfilled the rest of the prophecy. Oedipus and Jocasta had 4 children, 2 sons and 2 daughters. Many years after the marriage of Oedipus and Jocasta, a plague of infertility struck the city of Thebes. Crops no longer grew on the fields, and women did not bear any children. The plague also struck the livestock. Oedipus, in his hubris, asserted that he would end the pestilence. He heard that the murder of the former king Laius must be brought to justice, and Oedipus himself cursed the wife's late husband's murderer, saying that he would be exiled. Well, Creon suggested that he try to find the blind prophet Tiresias, who was widely respected for accurate tellings. Well, after speaking to her, Oedipus became nervous as he realized he may have murdered Laius, and so brought about the plague. Suddenly, a messenger arrived from Corinth with the news of King Polybus had died. Oedipus was relieved concerning that the prophecy was no longer to be fulfilled if Polybus, whom he considered his birth father, was now dead. What was that sound? Still, he knew that his mother was still alive, and refused to attend the funeral of Corinth. To ease the tension, the messenger then said that Oedipus was, in fact, adopted. Jocasta, finally realizing that he was her son, begged to stop his search for Laius' murderer. Oedipus misunderstood the motivation of her pleas, and thinking that she was ashamed of him because he might have been born of low birth, Jocasta, in great distress and disgust, then went to the palace where she hanged herself. Oedipus sought verification of the messenger's story from the very same herdsman who was supposed to have left Oedipus to die as a baby. The herdsman, Oedipus learned, that the infant raised as the adopted son of Polybus and Merope was the son of Laius and Jocasta. Thus, Oedipus finally realized in great agony that so many years ago, at the place where the three roads met, he had killed his own father, King Laius, and subsequently married his own mother. Oedipus went in search of Jocasta and found that she'd killed herself. Using the pin from her brooch, he took Jocasta's gown and stabbed his own eyes out, and was then exiled. His daughter, Antigone, acted as his guide as he wandered blindly through the country, finally perishing at Colonus after being placed under protection of Athens by King Theseus. The end.